All right, so hi everyone. Welcome to the next installment of NASA IT Labs IT Heroes Showcase. And I'm Jeff Joy, and I'm the Communications and Partnerships Coordinator. And I'd like to introduce Allison Wolf, which is the Program Manager.
Thanks, Jeff, and thank you all for joining us today. A little bit about IT Labs. We are a program under the NASA Office of the Chief Information Officer, and we're in the Technology and Innovation Division. And our mission in IT Labs is to engage and empower NASA's IT heroes to develop capabilities that support NASA's needs in a rapidly changing world. And one of the ways that we do that is we support an annual project call and solicit ideas from across NASA from folks that want to make IT better. And by awarding funding to select projects, we're empowering people with good ideas to develop and implement their vision. We're also centralizing these ideas and reducing redundancies. And as a result, we're turning these pockets of innovation into a platform of innovation for NASA. To date, we currently have 9 active IT innovation projects. And for those of you within the NASA network, you can learn more about those projects by visiting our site, labs.nasa.gov. Now let's get into the introduction for Scotty here. This is our 4th IT Heroes Showcase, and we are very glad to have David Scott from Marshall joining us, also known as Scotty. Scotty, beam me up. And then we have our project champion, Bert Bright, also joining us. This project was initially funded in 2012. It's called the Communication Dashboard, or ComDash, and it came into us as in the idea phase, which is our earliest identified phase. And Scotty identified an issue. He said, you know, there's flight controllers are in constant information overload. There's written and voice communications coming in all the time, and there has to be a better way to organize these things so that things don't get missed. So what he proposed was a Facebook-like interface for reducing redundant data and displaying relevant information as the flight controller needs it. And this has applications even outside of the mission control room for really any entity that's interacting with large amounts of data on multiple channels. This work that Scotty did was named the top 10% submission for publishing at the Space Ops 2012 conference, and was also published at the 2013 IEEE Aerospace Conference. So as we're watching Scotty's presentation and questions come to mind, we will have time for the Q&A at the end of the presentation. And you can submit questions directly via the Google Hangout, or there should be an email address on the screen, and you can also email us and we will take questions from there as well. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to Scotty. Scotty, thank you for being here, and take it away.
Thank you for having me. I'll have the warp drive engines running in 20 minutes. Before we go, and we have a little video that we used, in fact, in proposing the project, which will give you a pretty good idea of it. But before we go there, a little bit about the inspiration behind it and how we got to that stage. I want to introduce you to a typical flight controller. You can see here, and I say that only half jokingly because I like this metaphor. Old Indiana Jones has 2 things that he always has with him. He has his pistol, his gun, and his bullwhip. And a flight controller's pistol and bullwhip are their console log and their headset with all these voice loops on it. They're listening to 4 or 5 loops at a time. They're monitoring them. Sometimes, you know, they're trying to talk on one and something happens on the other, and you have to go, oh, say again. Or we introduce somebody new to a conversation, and everybody else has to wait there while you spend a minute to bring them up to speed. So as I was, we were actually reworking our console log tools. For years, we all had individual logs. You had to be in the control center to look at them. So if you needed help from somebody who was down in the office, they couldn't look directly at the log in real time. And you know, we said we got to do better. We want to make it where you could even look online, not only have your buddy in your discipline look at it, but with permission, some other discipline could go ahead and look at it and help you out. While we were developing requirements for that, I happened to be looking at Facebook one day, and the light bulb kind of went on. I said, gee, look at what a good job Facebook does of visually organizing things. Forget about Farmville. Look how I can see things that are relevant to me, and stuff that I don't want is out of sight until I need it, and a little red ball comes on and tells me, hey, pay attention to this. So that was the idea behind the project, and I guess at this point, let's go ahead and roll the video.
Charts are complicated. The dashboard makes it easier to operate by gathering relevant information into one place. Relationships are complicated. Facebook integrates information and processes to make it easy for us to keep up with our friends. Now, this is really complicated. Why not use similar methods? Please consider. Text conversations require far less repetition and backtracking than voice. This could reduce voice overload and make the remaining audio traffic easier to remember. Email chains are simply nasty to follow, whereas text and blog conversations are clean. Cut and paste and attachments have their place, but please, let's give them a major haircut, all right? This is a concept dashboard for ISS payload operations. Beats jumping among windows scattered all over the screen, doesn't it? The Facebook-like layout makes user adaptation easier. This sort of dashboard can be used in a number of places. This project would pursue the following types of issues. Moving forward to the beginning, here's why I decided to take this project.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Let me pull up. I do have just a few charts that may bear looking at. Let's see if I can run this thing. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. There's just not enough time. I will provide a link at the end where you can get access to a lot of this stuff. And have we got the screen share up?
We do.
Okay, I'm not seeing it on my monitor, but that's probably my operator expertise. I'm re-emphasizing a couple of points from the elevator pitch that you just saw, and I really owe a debt of gratitude to IT Labs for requiring the 60-second elevator pitch. We spent a little time with our TV folks to put this together, and in doing so, it really forced me to think and consolidate what I was trying to get done. So here again is the difference between voice and text and graphics. I sort of illustrated. These are I showed the principles in the elevator pitch. This is kind of the results of it. And the other thing that we can gain if we have some stuff in text, if it actually happens originally as text, we don't need to repeat it all in the log. The log is supposed to be a brief narrative of significant operational events. We put the essentials in the log, and then if we do a good job on building the tool, we create a link and just go get the stuff. Maybe a little humorous illustration here of the importance of having one copy of the document that everybody can look at, and we're not sending this thing all over the place by email and getting lost in the headers. So here's a picture, that same image from the elevator pitch. In most innovative developments and design efforts, you're really supposed to take for ideas and develop them to some extent, breadboard them a little bit. In this case, we're kind of breaking that rule. We said, hey, most people know Facebook. We kind of understand what it does, so we are going to kind of mimic it to some extent or the other. But in this case, again, we're obviously not playing Farmville. What I've got here is a console log display. It's not exactly like the one we use now, but in fact, for early trials, we're just going to go ahead and window in what we have now. Chat right now is not used as a rule in control rooms. There are some exceptions. It's used for some informal communications, as I understand it, down at Mission Control, from front to back room, and even up here, our payload ops director does some coordination with the flight director using, I believe, Pandion. Of course, Link now has some of these capabilities, and there's some technical issues to be worked about what system you might use. I've also become aware that a number of military organizations have been using chat for some years, sometimes augmenting, sometimes replacing voice circuits. But right now, we do not use chat as an archival type record. I originally depicted a hailing scheme that was present all the time. I've been rethinking that a little bit. And in a minute, we'll talk about how we're modeling things. The status scroll, this is like when you see your friends, you know, so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing that. This could be brought in either by automatically or we might enter it manually. So really, when we get down to it, we're only trying to do two things here. We're adding text chat, maybe beefing it up a little bit. It may have to identify what position they're working and some things like that, and have ways of preserving it and linking it to the logs. And we're visually organizing methods that we already have plus the chat. Down here in the gray on this chart, early on, we're not going to do all the creative stuff like Facebook does about figuring out who you like and what ads to put in there. We're not advertising, obviously. One of the aspects of this is that in a control room, the social mappings are pretty well known. They're not quite, they don't fluctuate as much as what you have out there in Facebook. We are getting ready to develop a proof of concept type demo. We'll use existing things that we have just to fill the windows. We think there may be some user interface work to do on down the road to improve it and make it easier on the eyes. I talked about Pandion. We may, in fact, be able to use our current console log tool and make some modifications so that it could handle text chat, and the advantage there is that that stuff is already archived pretty much permanently. And there are the military organizations, and I'm talking with some folks at Navy. In fact, I'm meeting a fellow also from an Army research lab tomorrow, so we'll see where that goes. Back here, we've had a lot of questions, and as I've tried modeling them, this section up here where we're doing what I call the alerts and pull downs, that's rich territory to figure out how to do it and make it as trouble-free as possible. And the status scroll, that's something we're going to play with also and try to make some headway on how to do that. One of the things we've done is we've acquired some tools for building mock-ups that have limited functionality early on, so that you can really make sure people understand it. When we did our console log tool, we did exactly what's shown here. We talked round and round the table, and we argued about the words, and we went off and did what was in the words. And what do you know? Gee, what the software developers thought those words meant wasn't like what I thought. It wasn't like what the guy sitting next to me thought. So if we can build mock-ups with some functionality, we can talk across the model rather than round and round in circles. So with that in mind, let's see if we can't bring up the tool that we're using right now. My apologies, I'm on the wrong page here. Try it again.
I'm showing the link, the email address you can send us if you have any questions for Scotty.
All right. There we are. Okay, we should be good to go here. I am looking at, this is the home page. This tool is called Balsamiq, and I'll have a link for information about this tool. But it's basically an early on wireframing and prototyping sort of tool. And we've got several projects in work here, some of mine, some from colleagues. We'll open this one up, and we'll go ahead and go right into, say we're in edit mode. And I'm not going to do much editing here because time is short. But we have a situation which our mock-up is situated in here. We can pull in given elements. If I wanted to add another sticky note, for example, I could just do that and then type away in there, and that would be my comment. Okay, and here's the names of all the mock-ups I've gotten. The idea in this tool is that you can take a mock-up, clone it, modify it to what would happen when you push a button, and then go back to the first mock-up, put a link in that button, and see how it works. So down here, we can demo this when I'm demoing. These arrows are nice and big, and they'll show you if I've got a link somewhere. And I just realized, let me go back to edit and get down to a demo I actually made this morning. We've been trying to find ways. Our original concept was we have pretty much a fixed layout. And then I thought, why should we have to do that if we can go ahead and do something a little more modern? So what I've shown here, this is a concept. I built this in about 15 or 20 minutes this morning. So what we would do is we've got a blank slate. We're trying to develop a new mock-up. And the first thing I want to do, my console log is the most important thing. So what I would do is I would drag this icon up here, create my window. I would use typical resize tools, handlebars, move that around. Well, then after that, maybe I want to put in I want to go ahead and put in a chat frame. So I do that. And then after that, let's say, well, I want to add an email. I don't want that right out in front all the time. So somehow I'm going to go ahead and add that to the alert and pull down section. Then I've noted here I have to develop what that user interface scheme is for managing all that. And let's say somebody else has come in. I've just established a protocol for this model that if you identify yourself, you put it in blue, and then you can say, well, here's somebody who's going to go work on it. And we'll go back there. I'll mention very briefly, we'll have links to this. And this is not part of the tool. You can get to this for free. The company that publishes that tool provides an overview, get you into user interface design concepts and practices. And this is important because we're not always used to doing that. We're trying to get both the customers and the developers and the managers all talking the same language. There's another site. It's not a freebie, but they have some wonderful seminars there. So let's go ahead and get back into the charts. Okay, what I call the glorious details. You may want to jot these down, or we can certainly email them to you later. If you want just the video, that little 1-minute video, there's the link up top there, and below it, there's a folder in what I call the com-feet wet document. We'll give you a number of links to papers that have been written on this topic and some of the design stuff and things like that. And I encourage, if anybody wants to kind of get involved and put in their 2 cents worth, collaboration is what it's all about. And so would appreciate any help that y'all can lend, or if there's other places you want to go with this. And we're done with that on screen share. So I guess we're about ready for Q&A.
All right, I had one question. What did you learn from doing this project? Do you have any things you learned when you were working through it?
Well, one of the biggest things is that importance of getting folks working with similar methodologies. And the way we're going about this, rather than just mandating a bunch of meetings, I'm working with folks in little 1s and 2s and 3s and talking with them a little bit. And I had a conversation yesterday with some folks I'm trying to recruit for a little side group that's going to meet. Folks don't have a lot of time. I'm dealing with flight controllers who, they got very, very busy schedules. And some of these guys, they know things. There's so much to be discovered there about this. It takes a little while, but I start working my contacts. These folks I've met recently who have already built similar systems. The larger groups, such as the military, they've got a very large population. They can afford more extensive development efforts. We have a flight controller population of, I'm just guessing, it's around 200. It's kind of like building computer-based training. If you're trying to train 50 students, that's a lot of money to do something sophisticated. If you're a university with 15,000 people a year going through freshman math, you can build more stuff. So if we can borrow from there, why not?
Yeah, that's great. Sadly, that's about all the time we have, Scotty. But I did want to present to you this. We want to thank you for being an IT innovator and as an IT hero. And so we're going to send this out to you and get Bert to sign it.
Okay.
So thank you, Scotty. Thank you, Allison. I just want to say thanks for everyone who viewed and watched this, and keep looking out for our YouTube for future IT Heroes showcases, and have a good day. Bye.
Thanks kindly, and keep those questions coming.